Hi everyone, my name is Logan, and this is my Porsche 944 that I will be taking across the country to 944 Fest.
The 944's Porsche engine is one of the most advanced ever built. It has excellent passing power. In fact, with maximum torque achieved at as low as 3,000 RPM, it offers astounding acceleration throughout the entire RPM range. One more thing about the Porsche 944, its brakes are as fast as its engine.
For those of you who aren't up to date on the culture around these 80s German cars, 944 Fest is an annual gathering of 944 owners from all around the world. People from all over the states and even from out of the country ship their cars over to make it to this event. And as a 944 owner, it has been my goal to attend. The only problem is I live about 1,000 miles away from the festival. Though I have been the proud owner of this car for 3 years, my restoration has kind of picked up pace in the past 6 to 8 months as I fully set my sights on attending this festival, which is quite honestly a really ambitious goal. Gearing up for 944 Fest, I've taken an entirely different approach, moving from what do I need to get by to what else can I do. So, my maintenance has been very extensive over the past 8 months. Under the hood of my 84 944, you will see it is not the prettiest 944 engine bay you will come across, but it is a well-running engine, and that was my main concern for this restoration. I may not win the car shows, but I sure will make it there, hopefully. So, some of the major maintenance jobs. The notorious water pump and timing belt change. I contacted 944 Store and was able to build a kit that fit exactly what I needed. Here I have the German pump with German gasket, Continental belts with new rollers, and all of the fixings that is needed to do the job. It was pretty daunting of a task, and trying to tension it properly without any of the tools was quite difficult. I did attempt to use a 3D printed tool that was offered on one of the forums, but that did not work too well for me, and I just had to go off of general advice from the forums and Facebook groups. The belts are a little bit noisy, and that is from over tightening, but I have not gotten back in there to do anything about it because it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. Additionally, another major job that I took care of were the vacuum lines. The vacuum lines caused a rough idle across the whole engine, especially when cold. Mainly these larger lines like this one here and the ones around the intake were ruptured in several places. Doing the job on my 84 involved removing the air box, throttle body, and intake entirely, and then slowly and methodically disconnecting each line and figuring out where the replacements go. DIY was not necessarily an option for this job because many of the vacuum lines are bent in all kinds of ways with several different ports. I'll picture some here so that you can see kind of what I'm talking about. Now, doing this job was relatively expensive. It was about $240 for the vacuum line kit, and then about another 60 or 70 more to replace some of these smaller lines and fittings here. The fuel system as a whole got a major overhaul. I removed my fuel injectors and got them rebuilt by 944 Store through RC Fuel. They were able to provide me a report of the flow rates before and after to show me just how much of a difference it was making. Even without the report, the difference in the car was felt immediately. Being a 41-year-old fuel injectors, over time, they definitely have clogged and leaked in all kinds of ways, and the instant gain in power from the injectors was amazing to feel. At the same time, I went ahead and replaced both fuel lines leading from the fuel rail. These lines are notorious for cracking, damage, and leaking, which often leads to fires in these cars. Upon removing mine, I found, quite terrifyingly, it was about to rupture. I'm very glad I took care of that. Of course, everyone in the forums and groups were yelling at me to replace them, and I'm glad that I listened on that one. And further down the line, I also took care of both fuel filters, one being the intake filter, which was pretty disgusting, and the other being the inline fuel filter, which I did not cut open to inspect. I kind of just assumed it really needed to be replaced and took care of it. In the process of that, I was able to damage my fuel pump and the S-shaped line connecting it to the tank. So I went ahead and, out of obligation, replaced those two. Not to be overlooked is the work I've done on the entire charging system. Some of this work was actually done before I planned to go to the fest due to underlying issues and problems. One would be this new battery. This is a Walmart battery, and it is a H6 size. Some people say the H6 are too tall, but the way I've resolved the possible arcing is through these covers on the terminals, so that no matter what, these things will not arc, and I'm able to get as big and powerful of a battery as I can in here with 750 cold cranking amps. Now, this red and black line that goes across here is a new wiring harness that I was able to acquire. This wiring harness for me changed a lot. Now, this harness only connects to the charging system, being the battery, alternator, and starter. And I had experienced an intermittent start issue where sometimes when the vehicle was hot, I was not able to start it at all, and the starter would just click. Through replacing this wire, which was not my first method of troubleshooting, that issue was completely resolved. It is known that these wires over time will actually rot out starting in the middle, underneath the sheathing, so you can't really visually tell. The line itself looked intact and fine, but upon replacing it with this new line, I regained full function. Then with the alternator itself, due to previous issues, I went ahead and replaced the brushes on the alternator, which is one of the most common failure points. They're known to be pretty much bulletproof, the German original ones at least. So all that really needs to be replaced is that voltage regulator brushes so that it can still keep charging. Moving on to the rest of the car, the rear wheel bearings were replaced sometime this past year when I noticed a helicopter-like noise coming from the car, and replacing both rear wheel bearings took care of that noise and made the overall driving experience more enjoyable. Then, as part of my 944 Fest restoration, I went ahead and attempted to replace the front wheel bearings. Now, I have never done any wheel bearings in a car before, but I will note the rears are quite easy and can be done with very, very minimal specialty tools, but you may find that you will need a press of some sort to get the bearing races installed on the front wheel bearings. Overall, it wasn't a bad job, though very, very inexpensive for the parts. The main cost was the labor of having to borrow someone else's press. Here is a quick look on the state of the interior. Not much has been done recently, but over my ownership, I have replaced it with a Momo steering wheel with a Porsche logo from Atlanta Porsche. And I have also in a very, very rookie manner, recovered this dash with leather or vinyl from Classic 9 leather. Great product, but it is definitely not for people that have never done upholstery before. If you ignore the glove box, the thing doesn't look half bad. But there are definitely flaws on the thing that are at my own fault, but I am happy with it overall because it has fixed my cracked dash. Additionally, which I have no way to picture the rest of it, my air conditioning system has been mostly fully restored with a kit from Griffiths, or however you say it. Moving along to the back of the car, I've had a lot of trouble with this hatch. Every 944 owner has. Basically, being a huge, this hatch is known to delaminate from its frame, separating, causing general structural issues, exhaust gases to make their way in, and most notably, water. I had this issue beginning on my 944 and attempted a full rebuild of the hatch according to the proper method on the forms. And while I believe I was successful, because my latches were not well sorted, taking it down the road a couple of months later, my hatch did pop open with the struts attached, going close to highway speeds, and actually that happened twice, which allowed my hatch to fully delaminate across the top, undoing all of the hard work that I'd done. So, before I leave for 944 Fest this year, I will be running a bead of silicone to just keep the water out and just being easy with the thing to get me by, because the repairs on these things are almost impossible. Now, moving to my Roadside kit. These cars originally come with quick inflate spare tires. So, in the event that I do need to change a tire, I decided I did not want to change my 41-year-old fancy quick inflate tire onto the car. Now, at first I was in search of a new rim to just put a tire on that and keep the spare with me, but then I learned that the lug pattern for a Porsche in general is different than any other car and is very uncommon, especially in the countryside of Louisiana. So, I was out of luck, or so I thought, because I found out a couple people in the forums that had went ahead and took the rim off of their quick inflate tire and was able to get a regular tire mounted to it. Now, while the first couple of tire shops saw my weird looking quick inflating tire and said, no, we're not going to touch it, I did find one shop that's generally reputable that was able to change out my valve stem from the funky looking one from the 80s to this one here and a whole brand new regular old tire. So now I'm equipped with a full-size spare. It will not fit into the compartment down here that is designed for the quick inflate spare, because that compartment is intentionally designed to save space and hold that one, but at least I have it. It will take up a lot of trunk space, but that is a price I am willing to pay. Moving on to the rest of my roadside equipment, I have made myself a bag here. Inside of my bag, I have spent a whole lot of money on a couple of roadside tools. First of all is this battery-powered tire inflator. It's got the pressure gauge, different ends that I may need, and of course the swappable drill battery. This is the Harbor Freight brand, but I did not want to pay any more than I had to and just went ahead and picked this thing up. Then I picked up one of these new fancy jump boxes. Now, I'm not sure how new the technology is in general, but it sure is new to me, because this is the smallest jump box I've ever seen. So this jump box here is supposed to be just as good, if not superior, to your average jump box. and it can provide up to 30 jump starts off of a single charge of this little thing here. Of course, it has its cables here. They plug into the unit and then have a positive and negative clamp, and it all stores inside of this nice little bag. Then, because I go crazy every time I go to Harbor Freight, I just picked up a small socket set because my socket set is so scattered and I just wanted to have everything all in one place and a kit that I haven't touched before. So I'm bringing this kit with me along with a couple other tools. And then from Ollie's, I was able to pick up an AC recharge. I mostly picked this up because I needed a new gauge to screw onto my small containers of 134. But since it was pretty cheap, I just picked up the whole unit and will be carrying it with me in the case my AC stops cooling, and a little recharge is all it needs. Then, of course, a jack for any side-of-the-road repairs. This here is a pretty old, low-profile jack. I'll probably bring a couple other jacks with me in case, but this thing is pretty reliable despite what it looks, and is really nice being low profile to help me get under a car like this. And lastly is my other bucket here. In this bucket I do have a jug of antifreeze, a quart of oil, and my old spark plugs in a box. In the event that something happens and I need a new spark plug, these are all still perfectly functional, and I can use them in a pinch if I have to. Then, last couple of things here are some fuses. To make a long story short, with this car, the bullet style fuses that it uses are very uncommon, especially when you're trying to find the right ones. This kit off of Amazon is not the right kind. They have a plastic body along with the fuse, and the plastic body typically melts as the circuit just does what it's regularly supposed to do. I guess especially being older and having a lot of resistance, the heat is higher. But I do have a small bag of my remaining ceramic body fuses that should be reliable in the event that I need to replace a fuse. So, as I said, the trip is going to be pretty ambitious, but I have prepared in all the ways that I know how. I will be trying to document the entire thing, mention the good parts, bad parts, whether or not it tragically ends, and just see what happens. Until then, I will keep you updated.